How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Madden 22 Detroit Lions rebuild. I'm looking forward to this series quite a bit. This is going to be a challenge. Detroit hasn't really been relevant in my lifetime. They had a couple of 9 and 7 seasons earlier on in the 2010s, if memory serves, but the last 4 or 5 years have been mostly forgettable for this team. And they finally pulled the trigger and sent Matthew Stafford to the Rams in exchange for a couple of first-round draft picks. So we are showing up at the right time for a rebuild. The Detroit Lions in this universe are 0-9. I did force losses for their first 8 games, but you're unable to force a tie. So despite the Detroit Lions being 0-8-1 in real life, I decided to just simulate that game and let the simulation engine handle it, and we did lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 10. Quite convincingly, I might add. 45-10 was that result. So as the point I'm recording this, we are 0-9 and set to face the Cleveland Browns in week 11. So let's take a look at what we are starting with here with the Detroit Lions roster. It probably won't surprise you to learn that there are very few highly rated players on this team. Just 4 players right now who are 80 overall or higher without morale penalties right now. DeAndre Swift is the 4th. And one of them is our punter, Jack Fox. So we certainly have our work cut out for us here, but there's also some cause for optimism as well, especially as we will be armed with 2 first-round picks thanks to the Matthew Stafford trade. This team in year 2 could look a lot different than the current unit that is struggling in year 1. Here's a look at our current starting lineup on offense. There are definitely some holes in this offense, and we'll go position by position here. Jared Goff is our current starting quarterback after coming over in the Matthew Stafford trade that also bagged us a couple of first-round picks in the next 2 drafts. He's a decent quarterback, and I'm not necessarily in a rush to replace him just yet. He is just 26 years old, and you could do worse at the quarterback position. But he's also got some weaknesses in his game. He's not very good at stretching the field, and he's not very good against pressure either. And the financial hit as well, once his extension kicks in, might be something that makes us look elsewhere for a quarterback of the future going forward in this series. I don't feel immediate pressure to replace him. I think we can be competitive with Goff under center, but he's not a quarterback that can elevate a team with his play alone. And for that reason, and the strong quarterback draft class that is coming up, makes me think we might be better served at looking to replace him a year or 2 down the road. The outlook is better at running back, however. DeAndre Swift in his 2nd year out of Georgia has star development, and he's a really solid all-around back. He's got good speed, he's pretty slippery as a runner, he fights for yards, and he can make plays out of the backfield as well. And he's backed up by Jamal Williams, who's more of a power back. And these two can form a formidable 1-2 punch, even if their ratings don't jump off the board. TJ Hawkinson is our best target on offense, basically our only major receiving threat. He's 90 overall in this universe and is one of the best tight ends in the game. He's just 24 years old, so he's still on his rookie contract, and my hope is that he is one of the major building blocks we can lean on as we try and turn this franchise around. After Hawkinson, though, our playmaking ability drops off dramatically. Quintez Cephas is our best wide receiver at 74 overall. He's pretty young and he's got some decent skills to build off of, but when your number 1 wideout is not even in the top 100 in the league, you know you're in trouble. Behind him on the depth chart is Khalif Raymond, the 27-year-old in a contract year. He's got speed to spare and has shown himself to be a decent deep threat, but struggles to get separation when he doesn't have a speed advantage. There's also a familiar face on the team in wide receiver Kaderil Hodge, who was instrumental in helping us win a Super Bowl in the New York Jets franchise. but I don't know if he's going to be able to step up to that level in Madden 22. He's just 70 overall before a morale penalty and really struggles with his route running. Behind him is rookie wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's got a very similar skill set to Hodge. There's some good hands on this team, but the route running leaves a lot to be desired. So we need some help at the wide receiver position, but the offensive line is actually pretty decent. I was pleasantly surprised when I took a look at this roster and realized that we have 4/5 of a really good unit going here. We've got Taylor Decker, who is a right tackle by trade. I thought it would be more appropriate and realistic for him to start off at the left tackle position instead of first round pick Penny Sewell. But he's 27 years old, has star development, and you could do a lot worse as your starting left tackle. So Taylor Decker is our longest tenured offensive lineman. At left guard, there's the 24-year-old Jonah Jackson, who has star development, and he isn't going to wow you in any one area, but he's got some skills to build on and no glaring weaknesses in his game. In the middle of the line is our captain, Frank Ragnow, 25 years old, and he's one of the best centers in the league. Assuming he can stay healthy, he's going to be the centerpiece of this offensive line, but things dip off a bit at the right guard position. The Lions spent heavily to bring in Halapulivati Vaitai, but the 28-year-old hasn't lived up to expectations and is the weak spot, in my opinion, on this offensive line. But one thing they did get right was bringing in right tackle Penny Sewell, the 20-year-old rookie out of Oregon, 6'5", 331. He's one of the 2 players on this team with superstar development, and it's only a matter of time before he's anchoring the left side of this line. So all in all, the offense could use a playmaker or 2, but things are okay. However, the defense leaves a lot to be desired in our 3-4 scheme. There's not a lot of talent that we can look to build around. Michael Brockers is 30 years old and isn't quite the player he once was. Still a decent playmaker, but I don't really see him figuring into our long-term plans, and he might be a trade target come off-season here. Our starting right end is Deshaun Hand, who is in a contract year. I have some interest in bringing him back as long as his demands aren't unreasonable, as you could certainly do worse at the right end position. Our defensive tackle is 21-year-old Aleem McNeil, who has the size and the strength and the potential to grow into a run-stopping defensive tackle, which is really important in the 3-4 scheme that we run here in Detroit. In the second level, Romeo Okwara, the 26-year-old, he's listed as a left outside linebacker, but I've been having him line up at right outside linebacker. Might be our best pass rusher in terms of the numbers here. 86 power moves is great, but he's not very good in pass coverage and is more of a pure rusher kind of guy. In the middle, our middle linebacker 1 is Alex Anzalone. I think he's a good middle linebacker 2 in a 3-4 scheme, but he's not very good against the run, and that's been very obvious this season as we've got one of the worst run defenses in the league. Our other interior middle linebacker is Sean Dean Hamilton, who's 25 years old. He lacks the coverage skills and the range that Alex Anzalone does, and doesn't really make up for it by being a very good run stopper either. The block shedding is pretty low, so we'll also likely look to move on from him. Trey Flowers is our starting left outside linebacker and one of the leaders of this defense. He's in his age 28 season and will probably start regressing soon, which is unfortunate, but I think he's still got another year or so to be a high quality starter for us, and then hopefully after that he'll be able to step in on a rotational basis. Our best cornerback is Jeff Ojuka at age 22. He's got star development, so I'm hopeful that he'll be able to continue to develop here in Detroit and start locking down opposing wide receivers opposite Amani Oruwariye. Both young corners have some room to grow if they want to secure a starting spot beyond this season, but at least for now they are our best bet as the depth chart behind them is very thin indeed. Corey Ballantyne at 68 overall is the third best corner on this team. So we're going to see a lot of Ojuka and Oruwariye. One of the bright young spots from this season is the emergence of Will Harris. He got a breakout opportunity during the sim and managed to earn star development and about 4 upgrade points along the way, so he went from being 69 overall to one of our better secondary players in the span of just a couple of weeks. So I'm excited to see Harris grow into the free safety role opposite Tracy Walker. In terms of overall, Tracy Walker is the best defensive back on the team, but I'm hopeful that that will change soon as the others continue to develop. Our kicker right now is Austin Siebert, the 24-year-old. He's got a pretty good leg and decent accuracy, so there's no need to move on from him immediately. And our punter is Jack Fox, one of the better punters in the league. He's got superstar development, 94 kick power, 86 kick accuracy, and he's going to get a workout if the first 9 games are any indication. Here's a quick look at our specialist lineup here, including our rush defensive linemen and our offensive specialists. I do think that our offense is the better of the 2 units right now. We're a couple of wide receivers away from fielding a respectable offense, and I'd love to be able to fill the right guard spot on our line with someone a little bit better than Vitae. The defense, on the other hand, is probably going to be a bit of a project. Even if the secondary develops well, our front 7 is still in need of an infusion of talent and youth. But there is a brighter outlook on the horizon here. We've got 2 first-round picks, and the first one is likely to be number 1 overall, which will give us a lot of options come draft day as to how we want to start restocking the roster here in Detroit. But if anyone can turn around this team, it is former New York Jet James Delgado, who's going to be our coach in this series. He won a Super Bowl with the Jets in our Madden 20 rebuild, and you saw what impact he was able to have from year 1. And I'm hopeful that he'll be able to help out this team as well. We have very few coach talents because we started with a custom coach and we haven't had a very successful season. But I'm looking forward to navigating this new coaching skill tree along with the new scouting mechanics in this series. I'm sure I will learn a lot as we go along and hopefully not make too many big mistakes early on that come back to bite us later in the series. But if that's what happens, it is what it is, and I cannot wait to get this series started. The first game in series history will be against the Cleveland Browns as the Lions try to avoid falling to 0-10 on the year. I'm hopeful that we'll be competitive in most of our games and at least have some exciting football, but Season 1 is mostly just about figuring out this roster, who we have on our team, where we need help, and what kind of players we're going to be trying and adding going forward. It'll give me a chance to get back into playing Madden on a new slider set and a new game, and it will also allow me to start figuring out what works and what doesn't in terms of building a playbook going into year 2. Right now I'm using Dan Campbell's on offense and defense, and I've found some things that I like and some formations and concepts that I don't. So it's just a feeling out phase here in Season 1. And then the real fun will begin when we get to the off season and we're able to start transforming this roster into one that can win games. It'll also be interesting to see how the other teams in our division fare. Right now it's been a tough year for the NFC North as nobody has a winning record yet. But the NFC North has long been one of the most competitive divisions in the league. So I'm looking forward to our slate of divisional matchups here. The Bears have Justin Fields to develop over the next couple of seasons here. The Vikings have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball when they're able to put it together for all 60 minutes. And the Packers have the combination of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams that makes them difficult to play against no matter how good the rest of their team is. Here's a look at the NFL standings right now. The Cardinals and the Chiefs are 1 and 2 respectively, and there's some pretty good teams right behind them. The Buccaneers, the Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Broncos, along with the Patriots, are all within a game or half a game. The Jaguars are 6 and 3. That's exciting. While this version of the Matthew Stafford era in Los Angeles has not started off quite as well as it has in real life. We are not the only unbeaten team, but we're losing the tiebreaker right now. I don't know how they determine that. but if the season ended today, we would pick number 1 overall in the upcoming NFL draft. Here's a look at these settings and these sliders I'll be using. These settings and sliders are recommended by Matt 10 from Operation Sports. He's done a lot of work with sliders over the years. I used his during the Madden 20 franchise, and they're well received. I've mostly stuck to what he suggested, but I have turned superstar abilities off. I might turn it on at some point this season just to test the waters and see how they go, but I remember in Madden 20 they were pretty unbalanced, and I don't really want to go looking through everybody in the league to try and manually edit their abilities in order to be more true or more balanced in real life. And the gameplay I'm getting right now is decent without them on, so I'm okay with them staying off. I've turned progressive fatigue off as well. That's just a new thing that's popped into the game, and I don't think that it's working as intended. So maybe next year it'll be better, but right now it's not working well from week to week, and the AI doesn't really know how to manage it. So that's going to be off here. I've also bumped up the number of X Factors, Superstar, and Star Development players from their defaults, just to give a little bit more excitement in our league as we draft a lot of younger players and watch other players grow. I want to give the opportunity for just more talent and more excitement around the league. Quarter length is at 10 minutes, accelerated clock is off, and a whole bunch of things have been set to manual in terms of user team help. The player skill sliders, as I mentioned earlier, are courtesy of Matt 10 from Operation Sports forums. You can find his version 9 sliders there. They're updated as of November 7th, and I think they'll be the final version, or almost final version for this game, so that's what we're going to roll with for now. So that is all for today's team overview and series introduction. I hope you guys are as excited for this franchise as I am. Be sure to leave a like and think about subscribing if you enjoyed this video. And like always, I'll catch you next time.